Welcome to the Innovation Ecosystem Podcast. We interview remarkable and thought-provoking guests about innovation, leadership, and change in the world of business. Whether you're an executive or an entrepreneur, our objective is to help you and your organisation create an entrepreneurial culture, become more innovative, and better able to respond to change. Each week, we'll deconstruct world-class performance from the arenas of business, academia, science, and sports. Each week, you can expect key insights, fresh perspectives, and proven tools you can use straight away to make you more successful professionally and personally. With your host, Mark Bidwell.
Hi, this is Mark Bidwell, and welcome back to the Innovation Ecosystem. And if you're listening for the first time, welcome. We've got a real treat for you today. My guest is Trish Malarkey, who's Head of Research and Development at Syngenta, a leading agribusiness. And as some of you might know, I spent 12 years working at Syngenta, and over the last few years I worked personally with Trish and her team on a number of innovation projects, some of which are now being launched into the marketplace. So if you want to hear how Trish and her team have created arguably the most efficient innovation engine in the industry, and this is a mature industry characterized by high levels of regulation, long product life cycles, undergoing consolidation, and under threat of disruption from new technologies, then you're really going to enjoy this episode. In addition to covering these areas, she also talks about the importance of connecting and leveraging diverse perspectives and functions and disciplines in service of innovation, which is, after all, exactly what we're trying to do here with the Innovation Ecosystem podcast. And finally, she describes the importance of purpose, both at the personal level in terms of her career journey, as well as ensuring that everyone in the several thousand employees in her function understand and are aligned to the overall purpose of Syngenta, which is bringing plant potential to life. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And before we get started, I'd like to invite you to join thousands of other business leaders from around the world and access our exclusive resources that are proven to transform businesses, making you and your organizations more innovative and more entrepreneurial. So hop on over to innovationecosystem.com, all one word, innovationecosystem.com, for more information. Now let's get back to the interview. Hello, my name is Mark Bidwell. Welcome to the Innovation Ecosystem podcast. With me today is Trish Malarkey, who's Head of Research and Development for Syngenta. So Trish, thank you for having me. How do you answer the dinner party question, what do you do?
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me as well. So when people ask me what I do, I talk about the fact that I'm a scientist by training, and I tell them that I work for a company that is involved in agriculture, and I head up the research and development organisation of that company. And what we actually do is we actually produce food for an ever-increasing population, and we use technology to do that in the most sustainable way we can. And that's my answer to them. And
the company is Syngenta, which I know well, having worked there for a number of years. But for those of our listeners who aren't familiar with the company, can you just explain a little bit about the company, its history, its scope, and what it produces to do in service of those aims you mentioned?
So Syngenta, as Syngenta, is a fairly young company, but it is grown from legacy companies, well known companies of Zeneca and Novartis. So Syngenta is involved in crop protection and seed production. So we're an agribusiness, and we produce seeds in a wide ranging number of crops, and we also protect those crops through our pipeline and products in crop protection, fungicides, herbicides, and insecticides. And we also have the opportunity, because we have a seeds business and a chemical business, we're able to involve ourselves in technology that protects the seed directly through seed care.
Mm-hmm. And the scope of it, something like 30,000 employees around the world?
We have just about 27,000 employees worldwide in over 90 countries. I believe we are in at the moment.
Okay, excellent. Now, you are Head of Research and Development, and you touched on technology. How would you characterise the role of research and development in Syngenta?
I think what we see ourselves, Syngenta sees itself as an innovation company. So R&D, and you'd expect me to say this, wouldn't you, is right at the heart of Syngenta's business model and operating model, where we have technology is our product. Technology and knowledge about our products is really an R&D endeavour.
Okay, and the scope of your activities, I mean, is it fair to say it starts from very basic research all the way up to, preparing the launch of a product? Is that I mean, what are those? Is that the main sort of how you bracket the work you do?
Yeah. So in crop protection, we are a chemistry, biology, and mathematics company, if you like. They are the tools of our scientific trade. And we therefore look at using those sciences and skills to discover new products, to discover active ingredients, or to discover new traits in germplasm.
Okay. And we're sitting here in Basel, and within probably 2 miles, there are 3 companies, including Syngenta, with a market cap of close on $500 billion. And here we are in a town of less than 170,000 people. So you've got a lot of research and development people in Switzerland. What's your view on why is it that Switzerland, has such a why are so many people working here in Switzerland on this kind of basic science that you outlined? Any views on that?
I mean, I think if you think about the history of Switzerland, the history of Basel in particular, the chemical industry was really born here. And I think it's for that as a simple reason alone, is this is the home and the birthplace of chemistry to some extent. Yeah.
And that was, well, I mean, my history is a bit shaky, but that was well over 150 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
But I read today that there are more patents filed per capita in Switzerland than in any other country. So that history of innovation remains.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and coming back to you, I mean, you took over this, the role of head of R&D 2.5 years ago, I think, maybe a little bit longer.
Correct.
Now, I mean, what led up to your accepting this role? Was this something that you'd always dreamed of doing all your life, or was it a little bit more of a difficult decision to say yay or nay to?
I think every career journey has great stories, and I don't know that when people look at how their careers play out, it's not always to the exact plan. So if I was honest, and you asked the question, did I dream of becoming the head of R&D of an agrochemical company or an agribusiness? It was never the ambition, but the ambition firmly was to work in food production, to work for a company that was responsible with respect to food safety. I started out as a toxicologist. And, there was always the option of, do I go work for a pharmaceutical company and work on the safety of medicines or and curing diseases for humans, or do I work for a company that is looking at producing more food? And I saw an opportunity for me to link well-being and health in a career that encompassed the agribusiness I'm in today.
And the move to take over a group of, be responsible for 5,000 people, a budget of $1.5 billion?
Just over $1.3 billion.
$1.3 billion. I mean, that's a significant undertaking. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how you see yourself in that role. I mean, one of the things that strikes me, just for the benefit of the audience, is, I mean, I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but the time to get a new product. Well, we were at a launch yesterday together, an internal launch. And I was very, very honoured to be able to participate in that, or at least observe it. But the time from which the product was conceived in a scientist's mind, in a research, but to the first launch, which is later this year, is how many? Is that 10, 12 years?
It was, for that particular molecule, which you're talking about, adepidin, it was 8 years.
8 years, which is pretty quick, actually.
Very quick. We're really proud of the speed with which we were able to develop that one. But it didn't come without its challenges, and it was probably faster because it was actually being developed as a backup as well. Yeah,
and it was one of a number of previous sort of forerunners in that class chemistry. But I mean, so very long product life cycles. So, I mean, my first question is, how do you how do you create an environment in which people who are working in the basic research side of things, and you've got many of those scattered around the world, but a lot of them, I guess, are here in Switzerland, where they can be working on things that never actually find their place in the market, find their way in the market because of the enormous financial and regulatory hurdles that these products have to go through?
I think it's a really good question. You have to answer the question, you have to go back to what motivates people. And I think, the first thing, how do you create an environment where people have that passion to produce a product? I think that's one of them, and that those products are connected to a big purpose. So like we were saying before, it could be, curing a disease, or it could be feeding the world. I think there has to be something about purpose. There has to be something about the ability to see your work go into the fruition of a product. But of course, you're absolutely right. In the endeavour of doing that, there's a huge attrition rate. And that's why when you think about once you've got the purpose there, and once you've got the ability to see products, there's the fact that people, and especially scientists, in my view, they're motivated by mastery. The ability to master their trade. Most of us are. I don't think it's just scientists. If you play the guitar, you want to get better at it. If you spend, 4 years doing a science degree and then 3 years doing a PhD, you really want to work somewhere where you get better at it. So the environment you speak about is a place where people are able to put their chemistry, their biology, or their mathematics skills and get better at them and apply them into solving big problems.
And so let's come back to purpose, because Syngenta has a great story around purpose. I mean, the purpose being bringing plant potential to life. But my view on this, or my recollection of the purpose, was that it took a lot of people, a lot of the top of the organisation, quite a lot of time to birth or give birth to that purpose. And then there was a hugely interactive process where every employee was invited to interact with that purpose and really look themselves in the mirror and see, does this fit with who I am, what I want to do, the kind of work I'm interested in? I mean, how do you see purpose, and how, is that an accurate view of the role that purpose plays in Syngenta?
I think it is an accurate view. The bringing plants potential to life is the outcome of actually being able to feed the population and feed a growing population in a sustainable way. So as a result of really having that at the heart of our ambition, feeding people, the outcome is that we're able to bring plant potential to life. But it does require a connection to the purpose. The purpose in itself can be very lofty, but there has to be a very carefully thought out way of connecting people to it. And I think that, to your previous question, is another really important point about ensuring that there is an environment of creativity and an environment of innovation. You touched on creating the environment for innovation. So if I was a fly on the wall at one of your leadership team meetings, and you have around the table people representing a whole range of scientific disciplines and functions like regulatory, biology, I don't know exactly your organizational chart, but what would I see you doing, and what would I hear you saying as in your role as a leader in order to create those conditions for innovation? So I think one of the things, just to be absolutely clear, the way and honest to the question, the way we have our R&D leadership team meetings, we hold ourselves responsible broadly for three things, and therefore we have our agenda, if you like, in three things. The first is people, the other is operations, and the third is strategy. So you really have to organise yourself. I think that's just a good management and leadership discipline, is to be clear about what you're working on. Now, I didn't use the word innovation, but innovation, people are there in service of innovation. The strategy is in service of innovation. And the operation piece is about how do we make the innovation engine as efficient as possible. So we talk about strategy from the point of view of the pipeline and delivering the pipeline that we have, and it's a really healthy pipeline that we have right now. And with the challenges in our industry and in the market at the moment, it's never been more important to outperform our competitors than through the delivery of the rich and vibrant pipeline. The other piece is around the new product design. So we have to innovate by design, and that's one of the themes that we talk about. How do we leverage and capitalize on this new convergence of the sciences? So what you're seeing is that chemistry, biology and mathematics are all converging in a way that allows us to go from a very trial and error type science to a highly predictive type of science. So we're able to think about what a molecule needs to look like and how to design it to make the blockbuster that we talked about yesterday, which is adepidin. And it's the same in breeding. When you look at breeding, we're able to predict because we understand genotype, because we understand the biology, because we understand the environment and the characteristics of the environment. And because we're able to use molecular markers, we're able to design products and seed products by computer, if you like.
So, I mean, one of the things that strikes me as you talk about that, I mean, you talk about three sciences: chemistry, biology, and mathematics. I mean, I'm not sure whether these are functional silos, but certainly, one would imagine that you have individuals representing those different areas. What is it that you do to encourage them to maybe break down the barriers and start co-creating together?
The point is, they're not functional silos, they're skills. The challenge isn't you don't set up necessarily a chemistry function and a biology function and a mathematics function. We have chemistry which is tested through biology, and we have skill sets that are biological skill sets, and we have mathematical skill sets. So it's actually, the challenge is really looking at how do you find this new breed of person that has the mathematical skills, for example, to help breeding or be a breeder, because breeders don't tend to be mathematicians. So the challenge is more, how do we make sure that we have the right connections between people and the right skill sets to ensure that you bring the technologies together, the sciences together.
Because, I mean, it strikes me, there are these sort of stories of how Steve Jobs designed Pixar, where he would mix all the different functions up, and the space that he created was designed to create interaction. And more recently, you have Elon Musk, who puts metal bashers next to software engineers, next to hardcore rocket scientists, all of whom have very different conversations because they're forced to have different conversations, which gives birth to, they're looking at the world very differently and they're converging across different disciplines. And it sounds, those are the kind of approaches that are actually yielding some quite interesting results in those industries. Now, you come back to the strength of the pipeline. I mean, how would you characterize the fact that the pipeline is so strong against the competition? And what is it that you feel that Syngenta is doing better than anyone else? I mean, is it that case of looking at the world, in a cross-discipline, convergent way? Is that the answer, or is there anything else that's happening here?
There was a lot in your last question. There's a number of things. So I think if I distill what you said there down to, our pipeline's good. Why is our pipeline so good? I think one of the things that we really focus on, and this isn't, we really think about being the most productive innovation engine in the industry. Now, that's what we talk about now, but the pipeline today is really of the work from people many years before I sat in this chair. And I think one of the things that really makes a difference is partly this ability to use technology to predict. And one of the big challenges we have in our industry is the whole registration and the public opinion about pesticides, crop protection chemicals. So we have always got to think about one step ahead. We have to be designing molecules today for an environment that could look quite different than it is today. And that's why, just connecting with what I said previously, one of the big differentiators for us, I think, from an innovation point of view, is our innovation strategy in crop protection, which is about really designing molecules that are not just looking for efficacy and potency. It's looking for the ability to mix in partners. It's looking for the ability, through the understanding of biology, to really ensure that you design the best molecule from an environmental and a human safety profile. And it's also using our understanding of chemistry to design a molecule that will have the best cost of goods. So I think in short, we are able to use our chemistry, our biology, to design a molecule that has the best chance of success.
Yeah. And so that gets to my question around, there are a number of changes going on in the industry. You touched on some of them. The regulatory environment is changing, consumer demands and requirements, expectations are changing, diseases are changing, resistance, that's driving a change. And obviously the competitive environment is changing as well. I mean, how confident are you sitting here that the basic work being done in the research labs, not a million miles from here, is actually going to deliver what's needed in 2025 or 2030? I mean, how do you reconcile that?
So I told you a little minute ago, we talk about, in our meetings, we talk about people, strategy and operations. So let me talk a little bit about strategy, because what you asked there is a really strategic question. We look at who we are today, and we are proud of the fact that we think we are the most productive innovation engine in the industry. But what you just listed there were the things, the key things that will really put a threat to that position. So the first one I would say is that market volatility. You know the industry well, Mark. It's it's cycles of boom and not so booming. And for an R&D head, that means I've got to think when the market's doing well, I get more R&D money to spend in R&D. When the market's not going so well, I get less a percent of sales. So that's one of the challenges. The other is our industry is consolidating. So our competitors are looking to become from 6 companies down to potentially 3. Now that means that there could be bigger R&D engines for us to compete against. The other one you mentioned, LTO, which is the license to operate, and the governments and the public pressure that go to bear on that. And then the other one, which is a really important one for us, the fourth one, is about technology itself. Where is the technology going? And I don't mean to give a long answer to this, but all of these are the 4 things that put pressure on where we are today. But with those 4 things, they're not all challenges. They're not only challenges. There's opportunity that comes with that. And that's what we address in our strategy. And the first thing we look at is, first of all, so we need to make sure that we deliver the pipeline. We need to make sure we exploit the convergence of technology to design better products for the future. But the other piece that I haven't mentioned yet is this potential to be aware of and participate in disruptive technologies. So we look at that as well. And then the fourth thing is really your physical assets, where you are, what you do, the properties you own, the co-location of people. I think you touched a little bit on that with your examples, making sure people are in the right places so that their skill sets gel.
Okay, so I mean let's touch on let's go to technology a little bit, because I think a lot of our listeners, I mean, there's innovation often is written, when it's written about in context of agriculture, it's talking about a lot of these startups on the West Coast, which have been very heavily funded in the last couple of years. It's coming off a little bit, but we talk about drones, we talk about what are the data you've touched on, precision agriculture, synthetic protein. I mean, what do you? And the thing for me is that a lot of this is becoming democratized, because it's much easier for people to participate in agriculture today than it used to be, because you don't necessarily need, $200 million to bring a new molecule to market, whatever that number is. What are you seeing in the ecosystem of agricultural innovation that makes you think, we've really got to participate in this? This could be disruptive to us, or we could actually use this to disrupt some of our competition. What are the areas that get you particularly excited?
Well, I think actually the ones that are clear right now are the whole digital agronomy space, the ability to either position products, sell products, or the hotels.com of our products, or TripAdvisor, where you're going for grower recommendations.
That's, like the company in the US, funded by Google. National Farmers Network, I think it is. Farm Business Network. Yes,
exactly. Yeah. So that's or the Amazon of products, and things like biologicals. But they're really, both of those things are part of what I mentioned as the 4 drivers in the strategy. So first of all, the whole digital space. The whole digital space is a technology that is enabling us to. Potentially enabling the industry to go to market in a different way. And then the other piece is around something like biologicals. There's a pressure there, not because there's great technology breakthrough in that space, because as you know, biologicals have been around forever, but the LTO piece is making this, back to your point about the ecosystem, there's more interest in investing there because there's the demand or the need or the perception that we need biological products. I think the digital space, the way we look at it is, and certainly the way I look at it from an R&D perspective, the digital agronomy is here. It started in R&D organizations all around. We are really starting to see ourselves using digital agronomy, using our understanding of weather, soil, temperature, genetics to think about how we can really design our breeding programs, helping our colleagues in production and supply to look at the best and more optimal ways of planting our seed production. And really the aim there is to make our better processes. And then the next phase is that you will go into is better products as a result of that. We will design better products as a result of the digital agronomy in R&D. And then after better products, it's a way to actually more knowledge about your products that you can actually use with the sales and marketing staff to position our products better in the grower's hands.
Yeah. So it's for people who are listening who are maybe thinking about they're either starting out in their careers or thinking about I'm sitting in a large regulated, slow moving organization, and I want to go where there's a bit more action, where there's an opportunity to contribute to society. What would you say to people who maybe have got some of these skills that you listed around data? What would you say to them about agriculture? I mean, what would your pitch be for agriculture as a career, and how's that changed from the pitch that you heard when you started out?
So the pitch is really clear to me because of the convergence of sciences, the chemistry, the maths, and the biology. There is a huge opportunity for us to apply advanced mathematics in agriculture. This is a whole area that's been around since before the war, operational science. Now, what's different now is the volume of data in agriculture, the genetic information, the trialling information, the weather data. So there's huge opportunity to be, as an applied mathematician, to really participate in agriculture. And the why would you want to participate in agriculture? Well, again, you get to master your skill, but also you get to participate in one of the biggest purposes that there are, which is feeding the world's growing population. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that's different from perhaps what attracted you to obviously the purpose is exactly the same, but the the tools that are needed are evolving over time, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, taking me right back, I was a toxicologist, and I came into this industry because I knew I had a skill that would help me participate in providing crop protection products that were safe. And I'm proud of the fact that companies, not just Syngenta, but companies like Syngenta have been regulated companies where they've ensured through toxicology, ecotoxicology, and all of the biological sciences that their products meet the highest safety standards.
And those safety standards, for the benefit of the audience, I mean, are higher than they are in pharmaceuticals.
I would phrase it a different way. Often the amount of work we have to go through as an agrochemical company to demonstrate safety is larger volumes of work than some clinical indications.
Okay, good. Beginning to wrap this up now, Trish, but I mean, you mentioned this word a couple of times, so I'm very keen to get into it, mastery. What does mastery mean for you as a professional and as head of research and development for one of the largest players in an extremely relevant industry?
It's a good. So for me, mastery can mean technical skills. It can mean expertise, and it can actually mean judgment as well. So what it all means is that you are in command of a set of technical capabilities, whether it's chemistry or biochemistry, whether it's knowledge. And because of your command of that technical skill or that knowledge, you're able to provide judgment to others. You're able to make high quality decisions. And therefore, as a result of that, this comes right back almost to your personal brand, that you're trusted for the advice or the products or the science that you're delivering.
You as a leader nonetheless have people who master their own disciplines or their own areas of expertise, mathematics, biology. I mean, we touched on some of them. So you talked about mastery from a technical perspective, but maybe you can just say a little bit about what does mastery mean as a leader of a group of 5,000 experts and in their specific areas in the research and development function.
I think the challenge of and the opportunity of leading scientists is actually a great one. It means that you have to be able to provide an environment where they're able to practice their own specific disciplines. It means that you have to think about ways in which you can actually develop their own talents. But I think as the leader of an organisation like R&D, it's a little bit of providing the framework, providing and connecting people with an overall strategy and allowing them to a certain extent to get out of their way and allow them to create the products or the technologies that you hire them for.
Yeah. Excellent. So Trish, I sent 3 questions through to you a couple of days ago, and hopefully you had time to reflect on them. First question, what have you changed your mind about recently?
You know what I changed my mind about? I really found that a hard question, and I even thought about my initial answer that came to mind, and I thought, well, I will give that. The importance of diversity is what I've changed my mind about. I never realised how important it was. I got the concept that diversity is important, but I think one of the things that I realise is that I've seen it as I've participated in many different countries, in many different teams. I've really seen the practice of diversity make a big difference.
Interesting. One of the last guests of the previous season is a guy called Robert Swan, who's the first man to go unassisted to walk to the North Pole and the South Pole. He talks about diversity as if you're in a tent in very, very dangerous conditions, you don't want everyone thinking the same way, otherwise you will die. So diversity is for him, it's about making sure you've got the right resources around the table to keep alive. And it's very profound actually, but it's you bring that down to the more practical level, and you can argue that's the case from an organisation as well.
Absolutely, and you realise, when everybody's thinking the same, or feeling very comfortable with the same. It's a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Second question, what do you do to remain creative and innovative?
I think actually one of the things that I do is challenge myself with problems, and be attracted to problems. And I think that's a really important thing, because people might say, oh, I love solving problems. But I think the truth is sometimes when we see problems, it's easier, especially, and I'm using creativity here, not just to mean, R&D and innovation. I mean creativity in relationships with colleagues, or creativity in a business problem. So I think I try really hard to be attracted to problems and not shy away with them, because I think that's when you find you really bring things out in yourself that you didn't have. Okay, very good. Third question, to what do you attribute your success in life? So are there any specific skills or habits or mindsets that you've mastered that have had a significant impact? I think the first thing is be surrounded by great people. And every single job I've had, I've been very fortunate to lead really talented, really very talented people. And I think the truth is most leaders lead through others rather than by themselves. I think the other thing in terms of mindset is ensure that the balance between, it's got to be fun. It's got to be an adventure. If it's not an adventure, it's not worth doing. Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a great pleasure having you on the show on the Innovation Ecosystem, Trish. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sure our audience have enjoyed it as much as I did. And thank you very much. Thanks, Mark. So listening to this episode again, a few things stood out about our conversation. Firstly, the challenge of leading many thousands of employees around the world with diverse backgrounds, perspectives, functional and academic experience, which is further exacerbated by the fact that, in this industry, there are very, very high attrition rates in research. So many of these people will spend many years working on things that actually never make it to the market. So how do you build and maintain a culture of innovation in that environment? And part of the answer, I think, is purpose, the purpose of the organization, connecting individuals to that purpose. Secondly, the convergence of chemistry, biology, and data is clearly opening up new careers and new commercial opportunities in Syngenta and in the industry. And much of Syngenta's success driving innovation is due to understanding this convergence and managing it effectively. And finally, what does mastery look like in this environment? Trish offered some insights which have, echoed what past guests have talked about. The importance of remaining curious, of stepping into problems, and of bringing diverse perspectives to an issue in order to understand and resolve it. So there's lots to reflect on. There's lots of knowledge shared by Trish, but as I've said before, knowledge is not power, it's only potential power. And it's what you actually do with it that matters, it's taking action. And so to help you do this, I'm going to do something rather different from what I've done in the past. And I'm putting into the show notes an article that I wrote a few months ago, which is designed to help you become more curious. And I developed this concept of what I call the curiosity conversation at Syngenta. And we use this to great success to uncover new commercial opportunities. And in fact, one of these curiosity conversations, which we had in Bordeaux in France several years ago, led to the creation of a new business concept that's on track to generate north of $100 million of revenues by the middle of the next decade. So this stuff works, and so I'd suggest that you download the article in the show notes and ask yourself, how can you actually use this approach, this process that I suggest of developing and implementing curiosity conversations to actually uncover and unlock some commercial opportunities in your business. So thanks for listening. Have a look at the transcript, look at the show notes. There's plenty in here, as I said. And until next time, look forward to hearing your feedback. Feel free to drop me an email at mark@innovationecosystem.com, sharing this material with your network, and have a great week.